everybody. Thank you so much, and welcome back to The Lift with your Auntie Sheila. You know, we've got it all here: the mental health, movement, motivation, and the best relationship advice around. If you're loving what I'm doing, please don't forget to subscribe and share the news of the channel with your friends and family. You know, this letter came through last week from Mavis, and it touched my heart. I want to jump right in because I think this is a topic that many of us can relate to. Low self-esteem and how to cure it. That's the title of our video today. Hi, Miss Sheila. I'm 19 years old and I watch your channel to figure out things going on in my life. I just had one of the most embarrassing moments ever. After a man used me for what he could get, he got up, got dressed, and told me I ought to think more of myself. I felt like I wanted to throw up. He just got up and walked out. I thought he liked me. I don't know if I have low self-esteem or no self-esteem. It's like people treat me any kind of way and it has no effect. I feel bad, but I don't stop what I'm doing. I want to change. I never want to have an experience like that again. My family is checked out. I look for connection, but it turns out bad. Thanks so much for answering me, Mavis. So Mavis, first and foremost, out of the gate, I am sorry that happened to you. You know what? I'm gonna back up because my spirit, a word just came to me, and maybe I've shared this on other videos, but I'm not gonna say I'm sorry to you. I'm gonna say the word poli. Poli is an African word. I use that in the African heritage because in some cultures in Africa, there's no direct translation for the word sorry, but they say poli, and it means I acknowledge that this has happened to you, and I honor your courage, conviction, and strength of character to rise to the occasion of the challenge and really knock the ball out of the park with what is inside of you and what you can apply. So I say to you, poli, poli, poli. The issue of self-esteem, I mean, there's books written about it. I could talk for hours on end, but I'd like to share a little bit about how I define self-esteem. And as I'm doing that, I want you to think about how you define self-esteem. So to me, self-esteem has to do with the ability in an actionable way, meaning you take action that shows the love, respect, and regard you have for yourself. And I put that right next to the ability, as in putting it into action, setting boundaries that protect your mind, body, spirit, and soul. So I've said a mouthful, and everything I've said about self-esteem and how I define it, again, easier said than done, and can be very challenging if you have not had any strong role models along the way, especially coming of age. And you know, I would put myself squarely into that category. And Mavis, it sounds like you're in a similar situation. You know, I can remember coming of age, and there just, you know, God bless everyone who was around, but there just wasn't just a strong hand of guidance in this area of self-worth and self-value, because what a little kid does, they're gonna look at that. They see their worth and value reflected through the love and through the care and through the regard that is shown to them. So you use the word Mavis in your letter. You know, my parents are checked out. I don't know how long that has been the case, but I'll tell you, as you share, you've been looking for a connection One thing that I want to say about that, and I'll go back to this man and what he did. I know that can really play, it's likely playing a lot of head games with you, but I want you to look at him as a puppet. A puppet that God used. You know, God works through people. So he had to find someone who was cruel enough to say something like that in such a moment. So he used this man to kind of tap you on the shoulder with a message that it is so important for you to think more of yourself, because it doesn't sound like you've come from a family of origin who's thinking a lot of you. You didn't say a lot in the note, but I'd be willing to bet there's not a lot of affinity, affection, and attention coming from that direction. And the reality is, if you don't think more of yourself, there are people walking around in this world, they can sniff out when a person just doesn't have that energy for their life, doesn't have those protective boundaries and borders up, the ability to say, no, I don't think so, or that's not okay for me. They can sniff that out, and that's kind of a little ticket that they wave around, and they'll just kind of use your life, use your body, use your spirit as a playground. It's not fair, it's not right, but I have to talk to you the way that I talk to my daughter, the way that I wish someone would have talked to me years ago. Because honestly, if you don't get this information and this messaging and go further than hearing it, but start to apply it, what's going to happen is what I've seen time and time again. I've seen it in parts of my life. I've seen it play out in other people's life. Okay, if you don't get the message this way, if this man getting up, putting on his pants, looking at you, you should think more of yourself. If you don't want to get the message through that embarrassing moment, okay, I'm going to up the ante and I'm going to give it to you another way. So the imperative is not just taking information in, oh, it sounds good, and doing a little reflection. It's asking yourself, how can I use this information? How can I implement it to lift up my life? And may this, lady, young woman, hear me and hear me well. You have permission to change at any time. Just because you've been going in one direction, you don't have to keep going that way. Today, here and now, you can say, you know what? I've just identified that this is a huge area for me to work on. There are just some things here that I have to look at, and I'm getting started with that today. So having said that, this channel, I really, the talk is fine, but it's solutions oriented. Coming from a past where I needed to do some heavy lifting just in the area of value, deep levels of self-worth and self-esteem. I'm just going to give you some things, not tomorrow, not this evening, like literally after you're done with this video, sit down and start this work, because this is good work, this is righteous work, and it will pay you back. So number one, Mavis, I want you to create something called the rules of engagement. This was hugely helpful for me in my sojourn. Why? Because I didn't have any rules of engagement. And when I say engagement, what do you mean, Sheila? I mean, what is okay when you're engaging with your friends? It could be a romantic relationship, your family, rules of engagement. What works for you, what doesn't work for you, what is okay, what is not okay. Your rules of engagement may be 10 bullet points, it may be 10 pages, I don't know. Everyone is different, but part of really starting to develop that strong, deep, rich, real, and true self-esteem is deciding what is okay for me and what is not okay for me. Because generally when people struggle with low self-esteem, the borders and boundaries of their life, the word I would use is porous. It's a lot of holes are in there. So if you haven't thought about where the borders and boundaries, no one kind of helped you out along the way, that's work that you're going to have to do it now. At the heart and soul of it, it's reparenting work is what I'm talking to you about here today. And there is nothing, hear me loud and clear, there is no shame in making the adjustments and corrections and going back. I would highly suggest everyone do it. Unpack from your years of coming of age. What do I want to keep? What's not going to work for me? So the shame is having excellent information presented to you and you don't do anything with it. So Mavis, the first step is the rules of engagement, because this is going to pull you out of that kind of unconscious way of being and existing in the world into a very, wait a minute, snap to it. I'm plugged in. I know what's going on, because it sounds like, as you shared in your note, these things are happening automatically, and then you sit back and you're filled with regret. So you need to get out of that. I'm inviting you to get out of that mode of automation. Okay. And the way you do that is to pull up awareness, is to pull up a consciousness. Okay. And secondly, what I'd like you to start to do, I'm really big on self-assessment. I love questions. I'm probably going to do a separate video. It may not be a part 2 to this, but a separate video specifically on the power of self-assessment and asking yourself questions. I want this self-assessment to be running in you at all times. So number one, the first question is, what am I doing? What am I doing in this? What is happening? What am I doing? What am I about to do? You may need to excuse yourself to a different room, different area, but I want you constantly self-assessing. And the second is, why am I doing it? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then third, is this going to lift my soul in the long run or tear it down? That self-assessment is key, because it's going to start to build a bridge that buffers you against that automatic behavior. Having sat with many men and women who battle low self-esteem, coming out of that energy field myself, I can tell you that it's almost like a hypnotic pull. It's like automatic. This isn't, being around this person isn't going to be good for me. Thinking these thoughts is not going to be good for me. But you'll be so habituated to it that unless you remain ultra conscious of what you're doing and why you're doing it, the patterns will continue. And I think, one of the biggest missteps that people make when they've made a declaration, I want to change. I need to change. I have to change. I'm telling you, to be passive with your word. We don't talk enough about, pay attention to a video that I'll be posting shortly. It's called How to Fight Through It. Fighting through it. It's often people are just way too passive, when what needs to happen is, by any means necessary, I'm taking such concrete, in your face action on this because I want the payout. I'm looking for a change. That really can't be casual. You can't go about that casually, because you have to think, for most people, it's like years and years of entertaining this habit of letting yourself get walked on, doing stuff that you don't want to do. I'm afraid to rock the boat. It's going to take consistency and getting comfortable in that new stream where you can say, one of my rules of engagement when I wrote that whole list was, this was when I was dating. I'm married now, but I did a rule of engagement. Things can happen. People need to reschedule. But I'm telling you, if we're in the first month or so of dating, you're supposed to be getting to know me, and this stuff happens more than a few times, like either look, you're probably too busy to focus in, or whatever the case may be. I'm not. That was just a rule of engagement because I had tolerated too much nonsense. Also, another rule of engagement, I have a daughter. She'll be 10 years old soon, and we talk about the red ball. That comes from our rule of engagement list. I literally look at all of, like, we're just playing catch. If I throw you the red ball and that sucker doesn't come back to me, we're not playing ball anymore. There may be an odd extenuating circumstance. In that case, you pick up the ball and let me know why it dropped and you can come back, and then we can resume. But it's all based on energy. And so that was another standard rule of engagement. I'm not chasing, I'm not running after, I'm not hunting, I'm not You see, so it really goes back to standards, setting standards for your life. This is a standard. It means it's a bar that you've set for your life, and you don't, on any circumstances, like I don't drop lower than that bar. Lovely woman that I worked with many years ago. I just love the fact that every Sunday, she was a widow living alone, and she would have her breakfast, get dressed, get her nails done, and her thing was, Sheila, that's my standard. I'm here. Oh, no one's here. I'm here. Like I'm in this home. I'm in my life. I'm a family member to myself. I have my pets. We have an existence. I want to look good, feel good, smell good for myself. So the bar is what I'm talking about. And put those into the rules of engagement too. And what are my personal standards? And boy, you'd be surprised where that'll take you. And then lastly, this was a breakthrough for me when I was going much, much deeper into this work, and it's been a catalyst for so many folks I've worked with. It is a simple prayer, and that prayer is to the Lord. Please help me illuminate my spiritual eyes so that I can see myself as you see me. And I'm convinced that when you see yourself the way the Lord sees you, oh my goodness. And I've had people say, Sheila, I just started with that simple request, that simple prayer. I just can't have disrespect or nonsense. I have a protective feeling about myself. I'm liking myself. I've got this quirky kind of, attitude. I'm starting to really enjoy and love me. And that really comes from, wow, I can see myself with a fresh perspective. And if it's something that's been difficult for you, again, that's another thing. We don't ask for help from our angels, from the hand of God. We have all this robust help around us. You don't have to do this yourself. If it's challenging for you to clear it, listen, I want to start seeing myself through your eyes, Lord. How do you see me? How do you regard me? And I'm telling you, when that wisdom and that truth comes over you, my goodness, things start to get rearranged. So Mavis and Summary and everyone who's listening, self-esteem and loving yourself and being kind to yourself, that is a positioning that my hope is that everyone comes into that space. Because when you're there, and by the way, one thing I almost forgot to mention is doing that really deep affirmation work in the mirror, reminding yourself, we all can beat up on ourselves, but how wonderful you are, how kind you are, and you're trying in this world. That letting that love pour in from you and through you is so critical. You know, I can't say it enough. We're living in days where we need our energy, we need our elevation, and we need it full throttle. We truly do. So I hope you will put some of the strategies into effect for yourself. And by the way, don't forget my Tools Not Talk circles of empowerment and accountability are expanding. This is a beautiful course inside of an accountability group. So check out that link below. You'll learn a lot more about it. I'm going to be back very soon with some more amazing content. Let me know. Let Mavis know. Give her a good message. What do you think about this issue of self-worth and self-esteem? Give her some good fruit for her soul, and I'll be back real soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.